Section 2, the history and background. EEG cyber hive minds. In order for us to proceed in our understanding of a revolutionizing technology and its capabilities as a weapon, we need to define some concepts and vocabulary. EEG stands for electroencephalogram. It is a representation of the brain's electrical activity. Traditionally, electroencephalograms are gathered through probes placed all around the head. They measure minute electrical differences from each other that are representative of the brain's activity near the probe. A brain map can be inferred from these voltage sensors. EKGs, electrocardiograms, work in exactly the same way to measure the electrical waves from the heart. MEG stands for magnetoencephalogram, and similarly measures the magnetic fields created from ion flows in the brain. They have different trade-offs in terms of measuring and locating brain activity. A functional MRI is an active scanning technique used to also measure brain activity in real time, as well as its structure. MRI stands for magnetic resonance imaging. It uses magnetic resonance to create photons that are representative of the types of atoms and bonding states they are in. Another sister technology is called ESR, electron spin resonance. Remember that. I have not seen any hospitals which make use of this technique by creating images from electron spin resonance. Electromagnetic waves are created by a perturbation to electric or magnetic fields that carry information about the states of angular momentum. There are many more brain imaging technologies, but these are the traditional ones. Using brain probes to collect brain information has limitations beyond just the lack of mobility from the tethered wires attached to the user. It collects electrical information the best at the surface of the brain, but not deep into it. That is why so many probes need to be attached to the head in order to get a more refined picture of activity. I have been studying the human mind for a good portion of my life, from neuroscience to cognitive modeling to artificial intelligence. So prepare yourself. Here is secret number 1 that has been suppressed by the forces of ignorance in the government. There was a patent that I will keep referring to throughout this book because of the importance of the work. It is published in the appendix. In 1974, Robert Mullick, an employee of Doran and Margolin, Inc., a major defense subcontractor in radar design now owned by EDO Corporation, an even larger all-defense contractor in electronic warfare, invented a fairly simple radar device that could read whole brain electrical activity at a large distance. It has the major advantages of no wires and full brain electrical activity analysis, not just points on the skull surface. He discovered and perfected a way to use some simple electromagnetic oscillations anywhere from 100 megahertz to 40 gigahertz to read brain waves by illuminating the brain and its electrical conductance, then reading the return signal. The imaging method observes the changes of frequency, resonances, amplitude, and phase, which represents the state of neuron depolarization throughout the brain. Secret number 2. But more profoundly, he discovered that he could influence brain waves if precisely timed with a return training signal. He had no idea at this moment in history. He had accidentally destroyed democracy as we envision it to be. The military and surveillance community immediately picked up on the patent and within 2 years had reprogrammed their communications and surveillance satellites and terrestrial phased arrays with the new concepts. The rapid deployment of this technology occurred because it only required software changes in already existing radar imaging and communications terrestrial dishes and satellites. Many additional spy satellites have been launched since to bolster the system. So in 1976, on the bicentennial of this great nation, a system called TAMI was born. TAMI is an acronym for Thought Amplifier and Mind Interface. A more invasive Big Brother technology came about before George Orwell's prediction of 1984. Secret number 3. Stealth radar techniques were discovered by observing the Russian bombardment of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with microwaves. Using high-powered steered phased arrays and focused directed energy from two sources next to each other, one can create a nearly undetectable scalar wave, or destructive interference, at the point of interest. With just a minor energy interaction, the interfering beams bounce back with strong signal-to-noise ratio to be resolved at the sources again. This allows for any imaging technique to be done from extremely large distances. In fact, it makes distance irrelevant to the detection feature, be it radar, MRI, or ESR. At the same time, the Russians had discovered and were developing similar capabilities. This is a secret arms race that continues to this day. The research and capabilities have come a long way in the last 30 years. Even if one didn't have direct access to the knowledge of surveillance capabilities, one could project out in time 30 years, knowing technology developments increase at an exponential rate. At that time, the military demonstrated the capability of reading automobile license plates from satellite images. In order to cover up and not draw attention to mind-reading radar, the whole field of psychic phenomena and paranormal psychology was invented to deceive the civilian populations of what was occurring. The Russians showed their hand when they started bombarding the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with microwaves in the late 60s, then with the 7 Russian woodpecker transmitters, the 7 most powerful in the world at that time, that began operation in 1976, pointed at the U.S. Unfortunately, due to the nature of this new weapon, many human minds are needed to create the database of specific brain data necessary to increase the effectiveness on a larger and larger population. These are referred to as the cataloging and cloning operations. In this context, cloning does not refer to human cloning, but EEG cloning. Many have misunderstood this fact, and then it was popularized by the TV series X-Files. These cloning operations are what plague the human race today, as every country feels the need to have this weapon that requires torturing and killing many people of their own populations to develop. EEG cloning means to copy someone else's brainwaves onto another person. The discovery made by Robert Moloch allows this to be done wirelessly anywhere in the world. A new military division emerged called the Psychic Warfare Unit, initially stationed in the Pentagon, but I believe it has been rolled up into the Psychological Operations, Electronic Warfare, and Informational Warfare units. So initially this became a great intelligence gathering tool. Psychically spying into other people's minds was an incredible feat. I don't use the term EEG cloning much because it refers only to the special case of observing a target's mind. That is only one aspect of the technology. Moloch discovered he could influence brainwaves just as easily as reading them. So at the other extreme, a psychic warrior can EEG clone his brainwaves onto a target. This is symbolized in the movie The Matrix, where the agents take over random citizens' bodies while in pursuit of the heroes. The correct terminology to describe everything in between the two extremes is EEG heterodyning, which means mixing. Heterodyning is an engineering term which means to mix signals, so EEG cloning is just a special case of EEG heterodyning. EEG cyber hive mind is another term used for EEG heterodyning for non-weapons use experiments. These are collectives of people who share one common set of brainwaves. They jokingly refer to the process of forcing someone into a collective as Borging them, a reference to the evil cyborg civilization from Star Trek. They are studying both the long-term effects of being in this kind of collective mind configuration and how to use it to control, spy through, disable, or kill a target. They also are studying communication and organization without spy gadgets of any kind for synchronized missions. The emerging field, which intersects at the physics of psychology, is called psychophysics. The dynamics of the mind are well described from neuroscience reductionism. Artificial neural networks have been around for half a century, but the new challenge is to be able to map exactly the subjective experiences to the physics of organic intelligence's informational signal processing, including biochemical and electromagnetic. The word psychophysics has additional connotations that are quite appropriate in the way that this field has evolved in the secret labs around the world. The tools of the psychophysicist are called psychotronics. It is this area of research that has given rise to all the conspiracy theories on the New World Order psychoterrorist organization, and secret societies' involvements, and mind control and satanic cults. Mind control weapons are the holy grail of the ultimate weapon, and has given birth to the world's most notorious sociopathic scientists, which in turn have spawned a generation of the most intense human suffering for weapons testing efficacy the people of this planet have ever endured. Next section, history of the first use of mind-reading radar. In order to reduce the effects from the bombardment of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow with microwaves, they put up microwave screens on the windows of the building. Oddly enough, this actually had the opposite effect of increasing the microwave intensity inside. The only way this can happen is if interferometry was being used on the embassy. If you block a path of the interfering heterodyning wavefronts, you can lessen the destructive interference pattern, thereby increasing the measurable energy. This was the first documented use of so-called scalar weapons. And there's a diagram that you can look at on your CD. Next section. Lured by the sirens of truth. True nobility is exempt from fear. King Henry VI, Part 2, Act 4, Scene 1. This is my story. Some people feel that it is an appropriate irony that the worldwide surveillance and obviously integrated psychotronic directed energy systems that I ignorantly helped build should be used on me. But I assure you that I am not alone. Indeed, most scientists and engineers working on DoD projects have no idea how the pieces ultimately fit together and how the system as a whole will be misused. Welcome to Hell. Hell is the nickname for the war room that houses the system. Two people on different days walked by me and said, "You are going to have a psychotic break. You are a psychopath." The first time it happened, I assumed the person was talking on a cell phone. I didn't see the headset. I'm not a paranoid guy, and California is a very friendly state. I was relaxed, happy, and doing what I love to do: invent, socialize, write, and learn. Life was good. But on October 31st, 2004, Halloween, the spooks came out. I felt a little strange after waking up from a nap, feeling a little groggy, which didn't go away for the entire day. The synthetic telepathy began. As clear as a cell phone call, I was talking aloud, and one main speaker with 3 other people on the other end of the conversation would reply. Rather than being frightened, I thought, of course, someone like my neighbors were pranking me using a technology called ultrasonic heterodyning, not very well known in the United States, except as a weapon made by American Technology Corporation, but used in vending machines in Japan. They even had a program like Candid Camera that used this technology to make people think they were crazy and used it for other gags. It projected sound so that only one person can hear it at large distances. It was very fascinating for me to get a demonstration of the technology, I thought. It was Halloween, and they introduced themselves as a satanic ritual abuse cult. I wasn't really very familiar with cults, but I assumed that could be scary. When I didn't seem to react to that cover story, they went on to try several others. We are the Borg, and we are assimilating your uniqueness, a man proclaimed in a confident voice. Whatever, was my rebellious, disinterested reply, even though I was actually quite interested in the technology demonstration. I am God. Would you believe I am a dark angel? The conversation continued. No? Okay. We are evil aliens, and this is an alien abduction, they less assuredly claimed. I thought to myself without speaking, wow, they really should have rehearsed this prank before trying it on me. How about this? We are brain nappers. You are food for thought. The conversation became more belligerent and repetitive. The only relief I got was putting mineral oil in my ears and plugging them with wax. However, it continued for 9 full days, and that's when the torture began. Imagine every pain that you have ever felt, and many you haven't, being repeatedly played into your mind like MP3 files for 12 seemingly unending months. All the time the narrators describe in detail what kind of pain you are feeling and psychologically abusing and tormenting you the best they can. After being run through the battery of torture tests, I can confirm that what one of the researchers involved with mind control brags about in his paper is true. He says, I can control every aspect of human mental function at 450 megahertz. These tortures and experiments easily stole 35 years of my life or more. Colonels involved with the EG heterodyning weapon claim they have demonstrated its lethality many times. I have since identified many people they have killed in this way. I developed quite a rapport with my mind control weapons testers. Our conversations finally became more half-hearted and honest. The agents asked, can you get close to the president? Would you kill him for us? We just have to get you to say that aloud to people to make them think you are insane and dangerous. We usually can get people locked up in an insane wing at a hospital by the first month, or commit a crime through their bodies. We need you to discredit yourself. Do you have any ideas? My reply, I don't think you need to do anything. The technology is too unbelievable for most to comprehend, and your brutality on so many citizens will be enough for the majority of people to be skeptical and tune out. Agents, can't you just tell people that the Russians or the Chinese or the FBI is behind it? I reply, what else do you have to choose from? The agents, those are the only scripts we've been trained on. We are big, powerful psychic warriors, and you should fear us and do what we say. If you kill your father, we will let you go. You've got to commit some kind of crime to discredit your testimony. We need blackmail, something. Nobody is as perfect as you. Who are you, fucking Jesus? I prophetically declare, no, I'm not even religious. But if I can perform 3 miracles, expose your long history of crimes against humanity, find defenses against the weapon, and help usher in a new scientific era, I would be a saint.